Lowertown is by far and away the most unique neighbourhood in Ottawa.
This was the first residential and commercial area.
I have a very positive perception of Lowertown, very nice community overall.
And every season that passes, I find Lowertown even more diverse.
The challenges Lowertown faces come from the fact that it is such a crossroads.
I mean, prostitution has always been around, and if it wasn't crack, it was alcohol.
All of these people can get much better help than being concentrated by the hundreds in mega shelters.
It's everybody's work to make it enjoyable.
There's still a lot of people who fight hard.
I believe that what makes Lowertown a very unique community is its historic character. As you can see from where we're standing, it's the oldest part of the city of Ottawa. It's the origins, actually, of Bytown, which was the city that eventually became the nation's capital here in Canada.
This is the center, the original center of business and of residence for Ottawa. And over the years, I think that aspect or that flavor has been kept. And to live here and to work here is to be sort of immersed in that environment. My name is Jean Brisson. I've been working for close to 40 years as a pharmacist here. Back in 1921, my grandfather opened the pharmacy here. My grandmother was born in a building next to the locks behind the Château Laurier. And so they met and they married and they raised their family. And the pharmacy at that time was located at the corner of Dalhousie and Gig Street. And we've been here for just over 100 years in Lowertown.
Lowertown was created, of course, by Colonel By when he came to lay out the canal. It pre-existed as Algonquin territory, but Colonel By was the one who built his house on the upper part of Lowertown, Majors Hill Park, and looked down on this lower area. It got called Lowertown for the obvious reason that it was lower. It had lots of creeks running through it. It was a swampy area, which they cleared and started to build on. And in fact, this was the first residential and commercial area of Ottawa. So Lowertown, of course, had many different groups, the Irish and the French being the earliest and most permanent residents. Along with those groups, they created institutions. So we had schools, we had public schools, we had a general hospital that was known as the Elizabeth Bruyères Catholic Hospital. We have on Rideau Street the first bilingual library in North America, according to some. Well, at York Street, which is 18 York, I believe it is, now a restaurant, was built as a magnificent building for the French-Canadian Institute. It was really the center of French-Canadian culture in Ottawa. Unfortunately, they had to move, and at one point it was taken over by a man called Labarge, who turned it into a cheese factory. And in that cheese factory, they reputedly made one of the first processed creamy cheeses in North America. I think it was a little bit like Cheese Whiz or cream cheese, I'm not sure. But that's typical of Lowertown. We reinvent, we restore, we redo things, and we keep going.
Lowertown is by far and away the most unique neighbourhood in Ottawa. It has history, it has geography, it's a commercial hub of Ottawa, restaurants, bars, but it's a residential hub. The Lowertown Community Resource Centre has a very simple mission. It's to improve the quality of life of Lowertown residents. In Lowertown, there is a great diversity of all kinds, but also especially around socioeconomic factors. There is a lot of poverty in Lowertown, there are a lot of social issues, and its residents face a host of different kinds of challenges.
Oh, we call Lowertown the sort of gateway to newcomers, the gateway to the portal of immigration. And that's because of the rivers and the water. In the early days, there was a wharf at the bottom of St. Patrick's Street. But after the the sort of Irish and the French canal workers. We had Italians. We had the first large Italian community here. But around the turn of the century, there was a huge Jewish population that came here. And they, of course, were escaping persecution in Europe. So they settled in Lowertown, and they eventually were the people who established businesses in the Byward Market.
The other thing that we believe in very strongly as residents of this community is the 15-minute walkability factor, which is what a lot of people wish to attain, which is being able to do everything you need to do within a 15-minute radius of where you live. So you really can walk everywhere and do what you need to do.
I get my haircut in Lowertown, I come and get food in Lowertown, I come for walks in Lowertown, and it's the rich diversity, the languages, being able to speak in English and French, and those who speak multiple languages, you can speak all those languages and see all those different kinds of people in Lowertown.
We have on Sussex Street the most magnificent cathedral. I mean, worth a visit anytime. We also had St. Anne's Parish, which was devastated by urban renewal.
Contrairement à la base ville ouest, la base ville est va connaître de très grands changements à la fin des années 1960, au début des années 1970. À la fin de la Seconde Guerre mondiale, dans la région, en particulier avec le plan Grébert, on veut faire de la place aux voitures. On veut élargir les rues, on veut circuler mieux parce que là, après la Seconde Guerre mondiale, la population de la ville grossit, la fonction publique prend de plus en plus de place.
Some brilliant planners had the idea that the best way to develop a city was to knock down what previously existed and build new. So we lost streets. We created a huge divide in relation to King Edward Avenue. We have what we call the Berlin Wall of Lowertown. It's very difficult to get across 6 lanes. But what happened was it created a change between the two sides in the sense that the West had the National Capital Commission supporting development along Sussex, and that led to the preservation of heritage on the west side. On the east side, we had 70% Francophone population, and we lost what's estimated 1,500 families were moved.
Les gens sont partis. On a détruit la vie sociale, on a détruit la vie culturelle, on a détruit la vie religieuse, mais aussi on a affaibli beaucoup le caractère francophone de la base-ville Est.
My grandfather and my grandmother raised their family in the same building as the pharmacy. And at that time, I think there was Vanier, Lowertown, Sandy Hill, and Hull. And they were, because it was mostly Francophones that was there, it was like one big community. There was no distinction between Hull and Ottawa, as I recall the stories that my father would tell me. And over the years, I think that as the generations, for example, have evolved, people from my generations, for example, let's say, who grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and by the time they raised their it was time to raise their families, they moved away from Lowertown, maybe out to Vanier or maybe out to Orleans.
It's taken a while to rebuild community, and it's hard when you replace a long-term community with many people who now see it as a short-term place to live. It certainly was a big blot on the history of Lowertown, and it certainly demolished and destroyed the continuity that had been here for generations.
There is a significant difference between the two communities that make up Lowertown, Lowertown West and Lowertown East. In the old days, it wasn't that significant because King Edward Avenue was that. It was a grand avenue with beautiful, tall trees along the center, so it actually connected the two communities, as opposed to today where it separates Lowertown East from Lowertown West because it's become a big trucking corridor. Unfortunately, there are differences on the income side. It's much lower income in Lowertown East. There's a lot of community housing, a lot of new Canadians, a lot of diversity in the residents who live there. There is a difference, but we want to make sure that everyone in this community feels that they belong here.
I think it's a wonderful community. Being on Rideau Street, looking north, having the commercial district on one side, having one of the largest OCH communities with buildings like you see behind me where, that's a particular demographic. We have a lot of young families and newcomers in our townhouse communities. We're very eclectic in that space with newcomers, old properties, longtime residents, francophones, very diverse groups, older spaces that still function in a modern setting.
I have a very positive perception of Lowertown as a very nice area and a very nice community overall. And my vision of this community, because it's a mixed, I would say social mixed community, we have different origins, different level of financial comfort that you can observe. So for me, it's really a good place to stay. It's a really nice community to live in.
Yeah, I find Lowertown a very diverse place, especially in terms of age, gender, socioeconomic status, family makeup. And every year I find that, and every season that passes, I find Lowertown even more diverse, which I think presents a lot of positivity and beautiful and very beneficial factors, but I think there are also challenges.
I think that the integration is slow because the people who find themselves together in that small part of Lowertown will stay together because they're new to the country, and that the integration into the community will take multiple generations, I think.
To me, Lowertown is Lowertown. It's a defined community within Ottawa. But beyond that, it's the people. And how are the people defined? You're right, that there's a number of reasons and factors that are resetting a bit of the belonging aspects. And it's not for me to define, it's for families and for the youth today here to define that. And it's for us as leaders and institutions to remove the barriers and meet those aspirations.
Lowertown's history is a great strength. It's a great anchoring, it's a great link to our past. At the same time, it can sometimes hold back the community from moving forward, from changing. You have to find the right balance between nostalgia and to keep that connection to all the great things that were built and that were done, but also knowing that we have to adapt with the times, and it can be a great challenge for all those who've been here either for generations or who've recently arrived.
I've born and raised here. I've grown up at 200 Field for the last 20 years of my life. Went to school in this neighborhood, did community events in this neighborhood up until now. It's honestly really great. I remember having fun with my friend, playing outside for until I was like 13. There used to be so many programs, so many activities to do with friends, so many things to do, like music programs, STEM programs, and those sort of programs are very good for kids, especially in this area. That this is a relatively poor area. Generally speaking, a lot of people need financial help, academic help that their parents can't always help them with. A lot of people here are English language learners, and ESL programs are vital for them to be able to learn how to communicate and extend their education to post-secondary. Activities to keep youth engaged, to keep them out of bad situations, and overall something to improve the safety, since in recent years many youth have felt unsafe playing in this area, and many areas that used to be used youthfully by many youth and families alike have been lackluster.
So we at the Lowertown Community Association want to reflect the needs and the issues that the residents or the businesses or even visitors have with our community. So in these conversations we've had with community members and others, we have come to realize that the social service proliferation and concentration in Lowertown has become almost a crisis situation. We need to have small-scale models of social service delivery in 24 wards in the City of Ottawa, not in one.
But I think over the years that's always existed. I mean, prostitution has always been around, and if it wasn't crack, it was alcohol. And as a business owner, we've always dealt with that. You know, the difference between maybe then and now is that the drug has changed. The behavior is a little more aggressive, possibly. But there's more of it.
So we think there are solutions. We are having conversations and meetings with leaders in this area, mental health experts in the City of Ottawa. We don't want to just point fingers and say, leave. We don't want this here anymore. What we're trying to say is there is a better way. All of these people can get much better help than being concentrated by the hundreds in mega shelters in Lowertown.
I definitely think it's necessary to have the services that we are providing, such as the social services in the Lowertown community. With our presence, it's taking people away from the streets, giving them shelter at night, giving them resources that other places can't give them resources. We are definitely evolving in the services that we offer at Shepherds of Good Hope, and it's definitely necessary. I don't think it really matters where you're located, but I think this is where our community and service users are, and this is where we're providing our services.
The issue of homelessness is obviously extremely complex. It's a bit chicken and the egg. Which got created first? Was the issue of homelessness in Lowertown first, or was the existence of services attracting homelessness? And I think if we look across North America, we see the concentration of those living homelessness. It was very visible in downtown cores, and Lowertown is no exception. So the challenges that Lowertown faces come from the fact that it is such a crossroads, that everything happens in Lowertown. So you have the businesses, the restaurants, you have new Canadians, you have issues like access to income and food security.
Economically, socially, culturally, there's a lot of different things happening in Lowertown. There's still a lot of people who fight hard for the positives in Lowertown. We've got agencies like the Resource Centre, of course, that are doing good work. We've got community organizations like the Lowertown Community Association.
It's everybody's work to make it enjoyable in Lowertown. It's our work also to make sure that those avenues are there for those to get involved, and for people to have access to the basics that any neighborhood should have.
There's a lot of energy and a lot of good, positive feeling here. History continues. It goes up and down in blips.
I think ultimately we're all looking for a sense of belonging, and a lot of the issues that we have in terms of race relations, in terms of interpersonal relations, a lot of that boils down to the very simple need to belong.